Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're diving into a topic most men never truly grasp, the subtle psychological patterns that shape female attraction. You've likely seen it before, a confident, self-assured woman who seems completely in control, yet there's a certain type of man she simply can't resist. Why? Because attraction isn't just about looks or status, it's about the emotions a man evokes. Every woman, no matter how independent or confident, has subconscious emotional triggers that influence her behavior around men. Some guys effortlessly spark deep attraction, while others, despite trying everything, end up ignored, friend-zoned, or seen as just an option. But once you understand these 10 core psychological drivers, you'll stop second-guessing and start seeing real results. You'll see why certain men are pursued while others constantly struggle, and more importantly, you'll learn how to shift the dynamic in your favor, without playing games, begging for attention, or pretending to be someone you're not. So if you're ready to unlock the deeper layers of female psychology and change the way women respond to you, stay with me. Let's get started. 1. The craving for emotional escapism. Women aren't drawn to men just for their status, stability, or looks. While those things can be appealing, what truly captivates a woman is the emotional experience a man offers. Women crave excitement, unpredictability, and a sense of adventure that disrupts the ordinary. That's why mysterious or emotionally stimulating men often catch their attention, not because of who they are, but because of how they make her feel. Most men fail here because they prioritize being comfortable, agreeable, and nice, which kills the tension necessary for attraction. Predictability numbs desire. To stand out, you must create contrast. Make her feel. Challenge her perspective, tell captivating stories, and keep a bit of mystery alive. This isn't about being manipulative, it's about emotional depth. When you provide a dynamic emotional experience, you become unforgettable. 2. The unspoken addiction to strong boundaries. Women are naturally attracted to men who have clear boundaries and a solid sense of self. Many men think being endlessly available or agreeable will earn affection, but in truth, it often leads to being overlooked or disrespected. Women instinctively test men, not maliciously, but to assess their emotional strength. A man who maintains his standards and doesn't crumble under pressure earns respect. That respect is the foundation of lasting attraction. Say no when needed, prioritize your goals, and don't let validation-seeking dictate your actions. A man who can't be manipulated becomes magnetic. Once she sees you won't bend for approval, she stops testing and starts respecting. 3. The thrill of uncertainty. Attraction, at its core, is not a linear equation, it's an emotional storm, unpredictable and deeply rooted in how we feel, not just what we see or logically deduce. One of the most overlooked, yet most powerful, aspects of attraction is the magnetic pull of uncertainty. This idea might feel counterintuitive. After all, don't people crave clarity in relationships? Don't we want to know where we stand, to feel secure? Yes, but here's the twist, emotional engagement is not sustained by certainty, it's ignited by suspense. Why uncertainty sparks emotional engagement? The same psychological mechanisms that make suspenseful novels, thriller films, and cliffhangers so addictive are at play in the world of attraction. When the outcome is unclear, our brains stay alert. We're invested. We think, we guess, we wonder. That mental engagement breeds emotional depth. Women, like all humans, experience attraction through emotional highs and lows. When there's something left to discover, when she can't predict your every move or emotional response, she becomes more curious and more invested. But let's be clear, uncertainty doesn't mean chaos. It doesn't mean being unreliable or emotionally distant. It means deliberate pacing, offering emotional depth over time, not all at once. Common mistakes men make. Most men, especially those who deeply desire connection, sabotage this dynamic without realizing it. They overexpress too early. They text back immediately every time. They reveal all of their feelings in the first few conversations. They cancel plans or rearrange priorities the moment she calls, unknowingly eliminating the very tension that fuels attraction. Instead of being intrigued, she begins to feel she's already figured him out. There's no sense of mystery. No sense of challenge. No thrill. She stops wondering what you're thinking or how you feel. Not because she's disinterested, but because there's nothing left to discover. The paradox is this: the more predictable a man becomes, the less emotionally stimulating he feels, and the less memorable he becomes. How to introduce controlled uncertainty. You don't need to be manipulative or emotionally unavailable. You simply need to understand emotional pacing, like a great storyteller. A great novel doesn't reveal everything in the first chapter. Likewise, a deeply attractive man doesn't reveal everything about himself right away. Here's how to build controlled uncertainty. Let moments breathe. If she sends a message, you don't always have to respond within seconds. Let her anticipate your reply. Give her time to feel curiosity. Hold some thoughts back. You don't need to share every opinion or emotion instantly. Allow her to wonder where you stand on something. It deepens the intrigue. Be purpose-driven. When your life is full and your schedule is structured, your time naturally becomes more valuable. She begins to understand that your attention is earned, not guaranteed. Use silence strategically. Not all silence is negative. Sometimes a pause in conversation builds tension in a good way. It gives her space to lean in. Surprise her emotionally. Be unpredictable in your humor, your questions, or your plans. One day you're deep and reflective, the next playful and teasing. This emotional variety is intoxicating. Emotional impact of uncertainty. When done right, uncertainty activates emotional pathways that logic cannot reach. She starts thinking about you randomly. Wondering what you're doing. Guessing what you're feeling. That mental engagement quickly becomes emotional attachment. It's why stories of the one who got away linger in our memories. It's why a man she couldn't quite figure out becomes unforgettable, not because he played games, but because he wasn't easily categorized. A woman who is emotionally activated by curiosity and tension becomes far more invested than one who is simply comforted by predictability. 4. The magnetic pull of leadership. The archetype of the leader, the man who knows where he's going and takes charge, has captivated women throughout time. From ancient myths to modern cinema, leadership isn't just admired. It's deeply attractive. But let's make something very clear: true leadership is not about dominance or control. It's about direction, certainty, and presence. It's about the way a man carries himself and the confidence he exudes. The psychology behind leadership and attraction. Women are wired to respond to certainty. Not necessarily because they want to follow, but because certainty signals security, strength, and stability in chaos. When a man shows leadership in his decisions, demeanor, and the way he handles situations, it sends a message: I've got this. And that message resonates on a primal level. Leadership shows up in the little things: how you walk into a room, how you handle conflict, how you plan a date, how you respond under pressure. Each moment becomes an opportunity to show presence and poise. The killer of attraction: indecision. Nothing dries up desire faster than a man who's unsure of himself. Constantly asking her what she wants. Backtracking on decisions. Being too careful to avoid offending her. Playing it safe to gain approval. She may find it sweet at first. But over time, indecision becomes frustrating. It burdens her with the weight of leading the dynamic, and that's not a role she wants to carry. She wants to relax into your confidence. How to lead without controlling. Some men fear that taking the lead will come across as controlling or inconsiderate. But this only happens when leadership lacks empathy. The most attractive form of leadership includes both direction and emotional intelligence. Here's what that looks like. Be clear with your intent. Say, I'd love to take you to this rooftop place Friday. It has the vibe I think you'll love, instead of, so, what do you feel like doing? Don't be afraid to have an opinion. Women respect men who express what they think, even if she disagrees. She wants to know who you are, not who you think she wants you to be. Handle challenges calmly. If plans change or conflict arises, stay grounded. Problem solve without blaming or spiraling. This calm confidence is incredibly attractive. Be decisive in your mission. When a man knows where he's headed in life, it gives every decision he makes weight. Purpose-driven leadership is magnetic. Everyday examples of attractive leadership. Planning with clarity. I've got everything covered, just meet me at 7. No back and forth texts asking if she's cool with Thai food or second-guessing every plan. Holding boundaries with respect. I don't tolerate flakiness. I'm not here for games. Not said in anger, but in confidence. Expressing desires directly. I find ambition sexy. It matters to me that someone's growing. This frames your standards as part of your vision. Leadership is presence, not performance. You don't need to be loud, alpha, or arrogant. In fact, quiet leadership is often more powerful. Think of a man who walks into a room and doesn't demand attention, but commands it. He's composed. He knows who he is. That's the kind of energy women gravitate toward. Leadership isn't something you declare. It's something you embody, through your choices, your direction, and your calm under pressure. Why it matters so much. In a world where so many people are unsure of who they are and where they're going, a man who moves with clarity is rare. That rarity makes him valuable. Women want to align with someone who can anchor them, not control them, but provide direction and momentum. A man who leads with strength and care becomes a man she can trust, admire, and desire. 5. The appeal of independence. Independence is one of the most attractive traits a man can embody. Not just financial or physical independence, though those matter, but emotional and psychological independence. Women are naturally drawn to men who know who they are, where they're going, and don't waver in their path for validation, approval, or love. This kind of inner strength is rare, and therefore, valuable. Women don't want to be the center of a man's universe, they want to be part of a man's universe that is already rich and meaningful. They want to join his journey, not become his journey. When a man gives up his ambitions, passions, or identity for the sake of a woman, he inadvertently communicates that he has no real center of gravity. He becomes orbitless, adrift, relying on her to give him meaning. While that may seem romantic in movies, in real life it's a slow erosion of attraction. Independence doesn't mean being cold, unavailable, or selfish. It means having a full, vibrant life, and inviting someone in, not needing them to complete it. A man who is building something, whether it's a business, a creative pursuit, or personal growth, becomes magnetic. His focus gives him depth. His vision gives him confidence. His movement gives him gravity. This kind of man doesn't ask, "What do I need to do to get her to like me?" Instead, he asks, "What kind of man do I want to become?" And in becoming that man, he naturally draws women toward him. His energy is forward-moving. He's not waiting for love to arrive, he's already in motion. Independence also shows in emotional regulation. When a man doesn't panic if she pulls back, when he doesn't need constant reassurance, when he doesn't abandon his values just to keep the peace, he becomes incredibly attractive. Why? Because he's rooted. He's not easily shaken. And this steadiness, paired with ambition, is powerful. There's a paradox here: the less a man needs a woman to complete him, the more attractive he becomes. The man who's too available, who bends over backward to impress, who puts her on a pedestal, he might win her attention temporarily, but not her respect long-term. She wants to feel chosen, not needed. She wants to be desired, not depended upon. When a man can offer love from a place of fullness rather than lack, it hits differently. She feels safe, yet excited. Seen, yet free. And this is where true emotional intimacy can thrive. Examples help bring this to life. Think of a man who's working toward launching his own company. His schedule is packed, his mind is focused, and his energy is disciplined. He meets someone, and instead of dropping everything to chase her, he invites her into his already meaningful life. He sets boundaries around his time, not because he's uninterested, but because he's committed to something bigger. She's intrigued. She admires him. And she wants to be around someone who makes her life more interesting, not someone whose life revolves entirely around hers. This is why independence isn't just attractive, it's essential. It's the foundation on which desire, respect, and long-term connection are built. 6. The power of selectivity. Selectivity is the quiet language of value. When a man is selective, he signals that his time, energy, and attention are not given out casually. They must be earned. This doesn't mean being arrogant or playing games, it means having standards. And standards are sexy. Women are deeply tuned into the cues a man gives off about his self-worth. If a man showers every woman with attention, compliments, or pursuit, it sends a message: I don't see myself as someone who has options, so I'll take whatever I can get. That energy isn't compelling, it's desperate. And desperation, no matter how well-dressed, is a turn-off. A selective man, on the other hand, doesn't pursue everyone. He's kind but discerning. He doesn't throw out compliments like candy. He offers them when they're earned, and that makes them land with impact. His attention means something because it's not automatic. He listens, observes, and evaluates before investing deeply. This creates a challenge. A woman feels like she has to win his approval, and that dynamic sparks attraction. It's not about playing hard to get, it's about being hard to get. That's a distinction rooted in authenticity. A man who is truly selective is not withholding for effect, he simply knows what he's looking for, and he won't compromise his standards for short-term gratification. This doesn't mean being rude, cold, or indifferent. In fact, true selectivity often comes with warmth and confidence. A man who can say, "You're beautiful, but beauty isn't enough," or "You seem great, but I'm looking for someone with deeper alignment," commands respect. He's not trying to impress, he's trying to connect with someone who's truly compatible. Women are biologically and psychologically tuned to seek out high-value mates. Selectivity taps directly into this instinct. The man who is selective is perceived as someone who could have options, but is choosing carefully. That creates desire. Another layer to selectivity is emotional self-control. A man who doesn't get emotionally hooked by every woman who gives him attention, who doesn't chase validation, who remains grounded in his own worth, that man is powerful. And in a world where instant gratification dominates, emotional restraint is a rare and alluring trait. Think about how this plays out in dating. A woman messages a man online. He doesn't respond with a flood of compliments or immediate thirst. Instead, he engages with curiosity, a touch of playfulness, and an energy of, "I'm open, but I'm evaluating." That energy creates tension. She wants to know more. She starts investing. She begins to wonder if she's making an impression. And in that uncertainty, attraction grows. Selectivity is a mirror of self-respect. When a man knows his value, he doesn't throw himself at someone just because they show interest. He values chemistry, compatibility, shared values, and emotional maturity. And because he holds himself to a high standard, others do too. 7. The emotional pull of drama. Despite what's often said, many women are magnetically drawn to emotional variety, the kind that includes tension, unpredictability, and the subtle roller coaster of connection and distance. This doesn't mean they want chaos or dysfunction. But it does mean that flatline emotional consistency can kill attraction. Stability is good. Boring is not. In romantic relationships, especially early on, emotional contrast plays a huge role in sustaining desire. When things are too predictable, too easy, or too emotionally safe, the excitement fades. There's no suspense. No wondering. No pull. That's where healthy, intentional drama enters. Let's clarify, drama doesn't mean yelling, manipulation, or instability. That's toxicity. The emotional drama that fuels attraction is about contrast, hot and cold, near and far, tease and reward. It's about creating emotional texture. Women enjoy the chase just as much as men do, sometimes more. They want to feel like they've earned emotional access, like they've unlocked a man's deeper layers. If a man is too available, too agreeable, too emotionally predictable from the start, it removes the challenge. It flattens the emotional landscape. The right kind of drama involves playfulness. Teasing her. Challenging her. Saying no sometimes. Pulling back when you feel taken for granted. These actions create emotional gravity. They show that you're not afraid to disrupt comfort to protect your standards. For example, a man might spend a magical weekend with a woman, full of connection and passion. Then, he gets back to work on Monday and doesn't text her all day. Not out of spite, but because he's focused. That distance creates intrigue. She wonders, is he thinking about me? The emotional space builds tension, and tension is the soil of desire. For example, a man might spend a magical weekend with a woman, full of connection and passion. Then, he gets back to work on Monday and doesn't text her all day. Not out of spite, but because he's focused. That distance creates intrigue. She wonders, is he thinking about me? The emotional space builds tension, and tension is the soil of desire. Or imagine a man who doesn't respond immediately to every message. Not because he's playing games, but because he's living his life. That unavailability becomes part of his attractiveness. He's not ignoring her, he's not hooked on needing her response. That calm detachment is powerful. Introducing healthy emotional tension also keeps relationships vibrant long-term. Playful conflict. Small doses of jealousy. Moments of uncertainty followed by deep reassurance. These emotional waves keep the spark alive. Without them, relationships become more like friendships, safe but sexually stagnant. It's about emotional contrast. The sweetness feels sweeter after the sour. The connection feels stronger after temporary distance. The reassurance lands harder after tension. These contrasts are what make love feel like something. A man who can confidently hold tension without needing to resolve it instantly, who can let silence breathe, who can push back instead of always pleasing, that man is rare. And rare creates attraction. 8. The mystery of being hard to read. Attraction isn't built in the light of full exposure, it thrives in shadows, nuance, and suggestion. Mystery is one of the most underrated yet potent forces in creating desire. When a man is too emotionally transparent or always available, the unknown dies. And with it, so does intrigue. Curiosity is one of the strongest psychological hooks. The brain is hardwired to seek completion, to finish the story, to close the loop. When a man is hard to read, the mind of the woman stays engaged, trying to figure him out. Every layer she uncovers reveals another beneath it. Every quiet moment suggests depth. He is not a puzzle that is easily solved, and that keeps her coming back. The opposite of mystery is overexposure. A man who spills his entire life story on the first few dates, who constantly explains his feelings, who shares every thought and motive in real time, is signaling that he's afraid to be misunderstood. Ironically, this eagerness to be seen and known completely ends up weakening his presence. The man who shares selectively, who opens up over time rather than all at once, builds anticipation. And anticipation is the lifeblood of attraction. Being hard to read doesn't mean being cold or emotionally distant. It means being disciplined with your emotional expression. It means not reacting predictably. It means keeping certain thoughts, opinions, or stories to yourself for a while, not out of manipulation, but because you understand that emotional pacing matters. For example, a woman asks a man what he's thinking. Instead of unloading a detailed answer, he gives her a half smile and says, "You wouldn't believe me if I told you." That simple response keeps her guessing. It creates an itch, one that only time and presence can scratch. It leaves room for imagination. And in romantic dynamics, imagination is often more powerful than information. Mysterious men tend to listen more than they speak. They observe. They respond rather than react. They don't always explain their actions, and they don't justify their boundaries. This confidence in their own inner world is compelling. A man who is hard to read also introduces unpredictability. Not in a chaotic or erratic way, but in subtle, intentional ways. He might cancel a date because a passion project needs attention. He might text warmly one day, then go silent for two. He might share something intimate, then shift the conversation to her. This emotional rhythm keeps her emotionally alert and invested. Women are not attracted to emotional monotony, they're attracted to emotional motion. Mystery creates motion. It stimulates the chase, activates curiosity, and breeds respect. The goal is to create the feeling of discovery. Let her explore you. Let her earn your inner world. When you give everything away too soon, there's nothing left for her to uncover. But when you let your story unfold like a novel, one chapter at a time, she stays hooked. 9. The strength to walk away. One of the most underrated traits in a man is his ability to walk away, not out of ego, but out of principle. Most men fear losing a woman, especially if she's beautiful or emotionally captivating. That fear causes them to compromise. They ignore red flags. They tolerate disrespect. They chase. They beg. They bend their boundaries just to keep the connection alive. But a man who knows his worth never begs. He never chases after disrespect. He is not afraid to walk away when something no longer aligns with his standards. And that, paradoxically, makes him far more desirable. Women test boundaries, often subconsciously. They want to know, how much can I get away with before he breaks? Will he still respect himself if I pull away, disrespect him, or play games? Is he truly grounded, or is he pretending? These tests aren't always malicious, they're instinctive. They're about seeking emotional leadership and strength. When a woman sees a man tolerate poor behavior, she may enjoy the power in the short term, but long term, she loses respect. That respect is the foundation of attraction. Without it, the desire dies. A man who can calmly walk away, even from a woman he deeply wants, signals strength on every level. He values his peace over chaos. He chooses self-respect over temporary connection. He knows that being alone is better than being disrespected. This doesn't mean being inflexible or emotionally detached. It means knowing where your line is, and refusing to move it out of desperation. It means knowing that your time, energy, and love are valuable, and they must be met with equal depth, consistency, and appreciation. Walking away isn't weakness, it's power. It's saying, I don't need to be loved at the expense of loving myself. Women are not drawn to men who sacrifice their dignity. They are drawn to men who inspire them to rise, emotionally, spiritually, behaviorally. A man who walks away forces a woman to reflect. It resets the dynamic. It shows her that he is rare, and rarity is attractive. The key is to walk away with peace, not punishment. No drama. No emotional explosions. Just a quiet, confident exit. That silence echoes. And sometimes, the act of walking away rekindles respect. It rebalances the power dynamic. It creates space for her to pursue you. But even if she doesn't, you win. Because the man who walks away with integrity never truly loses. 10. The irresistibility of a challenge. Challenge is one of the most important, and misunderstood, elements of attraction. Women don't want men who are difficult, they want men who are stimulating. Men who make them think, feel, grow, and work. A woman wants to feel that earning a man's heart was a journey, not a handout. She doesn't want to feel like just anyone could have had him. She wants to feel chosen, because she was exceptional. This is where the power of being a challenge comes in.